Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the At Home with Quest session today on the 30th of November. Can we believe it? We're at the end of November, which means 25 days to Christmas. So I thought about what we were going to talk about, and I spoke to Xanthi and some of the team at Quest, and we planned on doing a little bit of a theme between now and coming up to the 25th of December to look at some of the joys and challenges of Christmas. So today we're going to specifically look at ways that we can lessen the stress and perhaps bring more joy into the festive season and not sort of be like a bit of a worn out dish rag when Christmas Day comes or the Christmas gathering comes. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, if anybody is tuned in and can just let me know that you are listening, hearing me, that would be great. And give me the thumbs up would be awesome. I can't see anybody at this stage, but we're very, very early in the session. So let's dive in, and I wanted to start, as we always do, with a little coming to the senses, and then we can really sort of drop into some of the content today, which I'm pretty excited about, because for me, Christmas was, for many, many years, I was a bit of a bah humbug, and I sort of lost the joy in Christmas because my adult children had left home and I didn't have any grandchildren, so I sort of thought, what's the point of putting the tree up? And I just kind of lost the joy of Christmas, and now we have 9 grandchildren, which is such a joy. And when the family comes together, I like to think of myself as now a Mrs. Claus rather than a bar humbug or a Christmas Grinch. So I wanted to share some of that with you today, and how we can bring some of that joyfulness back in, because it can be quite a stressful season as well. So let's just start by doing a little coming to the senses. And I'm going to leave my eyes open for this, but I'm going to invite you that if you'd like to, you can close your eyes or you can lower your gaze. So maybe start with taking a deeper, longer, slower breath, and imagine you're filling up your belly like it's a balloon. And then as you breathe out, you can drop your shoulders and feel your body soften and relax into the chair beneath you, or whatever is holding your body up. Maybe one more of those deeper, longer, slower breaths, and letting go, releasing. And then allow the breath to return to its natural rhythm, its natural pace. And perhaps notice where you notice the breath. Is it at the nostrils or the chest or the belly? And become aware of what you can feel. Just right here, right now, perhaps you might want to wiggle your toes in your awareness and feel the toes in your socks or your shoes, or if you've got bare feet, feeling your feet on the floor. And noticing the contact points with the surface beneath you, where the body makes contact with the chair. Or you might even notice where the clothing or your clothing makes contact with your skin. Just noticing what you can feel right here, right now. And then track to any sounds that you can hear in the environment. Maybe extending your hearing right out. Just tracking one sound, letting that go, and then another sound. It could be the sounds of nature or life. Just noticing. And then taking your focus to the sense of sight. If your eyes are open, have a look around and just see what's in your visual awareness. What can you see right here, right now? And if your eyes are closed, what do you notice when you take away the visual distractions? Perhaps it's connecting with your inner world or your inner stillness. Just quietening the mind for a little while. If thoughts come, that's okay. Just notice the thought, then bring your focus back to the breath, or even back to the sound of my voice. And tracking down now to the nostrils and the sense of smell, and noticing any scents or aromas in the air. And if you can't track any scents or aromas right here, right now. Perhaps imagine a scent, the smell of spring, or freshly baked cookies. And then coming down to the mouth and the sense of taste, and noticing any sensations in the mouth. So just as you lose your mind, quieten your mind, and come to your senses. Such a gift. So if your eyes are closed, I'm going to invite you now to open your eyes and maybe having a little bit of a stretch and bring your energy back. So thank you. You know, that's that little process there. For those of you who have been to Quest know that this is something that we do very regularly. I do this, you know, almost every moment of every day, not that actual, 3 or 4 minutes, whatever that was, but taking the breath and feet on the ground. What can I hear? What can I see? Because it brings you back to the present moment. And the mind can have us going off into the future, where we start to worry and catastrophize about things, or it can have us going off into the past, where we start to ruminate. So that little practice there of coming to your senses can be a real gift for you in this season, or this time leading up to the festive season. So if you can get that into your toolkit, it's such a gift for you. Now, as I said, 25 days to Christmas, yay, for some of us. Now, I do want to frame up here that Christmas can be a sad time or challenging time for some. And just to know that over the next few weeks, we will be covering the many, many aspects of what Christmas can mean for you. So we will be looking at ways to manage grief and loss, or perhaps loneliness. So we will be going there. But today, in particular, I wanted to look at setting us up to get organised, to have a joyful experience for Christmas, yeah? So, as I said, I used to be a bar humbug. Now I'd like to see myself as getting into the joy of Christmas and well, having 9 grandchildren all together in the house. The first thing I want to say to you is, do you really need to clean your house up before they all come? I learned the hard way perhaps not to do that, or not to give it a really good clean anyway. So, look, we're coming up to a time when families do come together to celebrate for Christmas. And this can be good, bad, huh? So, I read a Facebook post just the other day, and it said something like, Christmas is a time where you get all of your dysfunctional family together on one day and hope that nobody calls the police. And I had a little bit of a giggle with that, because hopefully we don't have that much of a dysfunctional family. But let's face it, we know that families sometimes are tricky and they may not be cohesive. And yet we still come together for that one day, yeah? And we know that one day sometimes is Christmas Day, the 25th of December, but some families celebrate their Christmas gathering on either before Christmas or even Boxing Day. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the 25th, because invariably when your children get children, they like to have Christmas morning at their home, naturally, for the children to get their presents from Santa. So a lot of families come together a little bit earlier, and that's why we thought we'd give you some real skills and strategies on how to be able to manage that day as well. Now, the other thing that happens when families come together is that we see the potential of old patterns from earlier life slipping into the present moment. So what can happen is that we can get triggered when certain family members come into your home, into your presence, into your being. And, these family members can be predictable. And I'm just going to make this up. It could be the Auntie Joan or Auntie Frida, whatever, who drinks too much, yeah? It could be the Uncle Fred or Uncle Jack who tells bad jokes, yeah? Whatever it is, we know these really tricky relatives that come into our life on this one particular day. Or it could be siblings that don't get along, they don't talk, etc. They might have different opinions. And, sometimes it can feel like you're in a sandpit to sort of see who you're fighting to get your opinion across, or you might not feel heard. And it can be really, really stressful if you can see the conversation going down to something that could look like it's leading to an argument or a disagreement, yeah. So we want to look at ways to do it differently this year. So let's get prepared to look at how you can bring in more joy and happiness into that festive season and to that one day of celebration with your family. Might be many days if you've got a really big family. So we're going to look at a toolkit. Yeah, this is a toolkit to lessen the stress and to bring in more joy. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is boundaries. And it's okay for you to say or to put a block to inappropriate behaviour. If you know that you get a relative that comes along that drinks too much, you might want to put a boundary in place that you're not going to start drinking until lunch is served. There's no reason why we need to start drinking before lunch. You know, it's Christmas Day. Generally, we don't drink. Before lunch. Some might. I'm not making any judgment around that. But generally, if you can keep the alcohol to a lesser level and maybe just bring out the alcohol when the lunch is served, or perhaps when you put out the platter of nibbles and that sort of thing as well. So inappropriate behaviour is not okay, especially in your home, and there's nothing wrong with putting those boundaries in place. So perhaps if there's differences in the family, and let's face it, you know, right here, right now, there can be a lot of differences in families. I see this in my counselling sessions with my clients. Some families are really split at the moment because of different choices around everything that's happened in the world in the last few years with COVID, yeah? So there's nothing wrong with requesting that certain subjects are out of bounds, yeah? And be clear around the fact that you want the day to be a day of celebration and not debate. Because it's okay to agree to disagree, and it's okay to have different opinions. You don't need to make the other one wrong and yourself right, yeah? So perhaps if that's the case with your family, you could look at making a joke of it and putting a code word in place. And if you can see that conversation heading down that rabbit warren, you could use a code word like something like bah humbug or Grinch, Christmas Grinch, yeah? And that's going to sort of just break the energy there. And, you know, you might get some pushback. You might get some pushback from family members. And if that happens, you can make a joke of it and just say, look, anybody who breaches the agreement, I've got a jar there, you've got to put some money in the jar. And, you know, it's like a bit of a swear jar, isn't it? You know, if the conversation goes to an area that's going to take the joy out of Christmas, you're going to sort of put a block to it and you're just going to sort of say that's not on for today. It doesn't have to be, well, this is the way I want it to be, you know, like and be, you know, a matriarch or in control, but it is around sort of just keeping the joy and the lightness in the day as well. And keeping that festive season flowing beautifully with lots of joy, gratitude, laughter and fun, yeah, rather than debate around differences. We don't want that on the day we all come together, because families are different anyway, generally, and they're even more different now with different views as well. Now, the other thing around boundaries is to lessen the stress on the day is for you to delegate. You do not have to do all of the food preparation yourself. And I have to say, it took me many, many years to realise this. Not only did it absolutely cost us a bomb to buy all of the food, but I was, you know, preparing, and then I'd be like a worn-out dish rag when it actually come to the day. So now, when all our family comes together, we've got I set up a page, a messenger page or a Facebook page, private page, and we put little messages out there around who's going to bring what, and, you know, the issues around presents, that sort of thing as well. So yeah, delegate. Get somebody to bring the ham, get somebody to bring the dessert, you know, whatever it is for you. So see if you can lessen the stress that way as well. Just want to have a bit of a look here and see if there's anybody online. I've got Xanthi, that's good, yep, and I've got Ruth and Anita. Hi Anita, how are you? And hi Ruth, lovely to see you. All right, so the other thing around the lessening the stress, it's a great idea if you can pre-prepare some food and put it in the freezer, and then you actually have to do less on the day. So I don't eat meat, and my thing every year is I make a rice and nut slice or pie, and the kids say that they don't like it, but they certainly eat it, and they bring along whatever meat they want because I don't cook the meat. And that's the boundary that I put in place, because it just went against my values and my ethics. But we still have ethical meat. You know, they buy meat that's killed ethically, or grow happy cows, happy lambs, whatever it is, yeah? And for those of you who are vegans, I just want to apologise in advance for that comment because I know that there's no happy animals that have to die for us to eat. So that's a whole other subject, isn't it? So anyway, I always make my rice and nut pie and put it into the freezer, which I've done just this last weekend. And that's all ready now, so I don't have to worry about that, yeah? So as much as you can, be prepared with the food. Get it ready the day before, a couple of weeks before, pop it in the freezer, so there's less to do on the actual morning that everybody's coming together. Now, just in relation to presents, generally we just buy presents for the grandchildren because we've got a lot of stuff, haven't we? We do have so much stuff, and it sort of feels like we're stuffed, really. But, you know, just to, if you're going to go and buy presents, see if you can get organised and start to buy your gifts earlier rather than doing the last minute Christmas Eve or the day before or the 2 days before Christmas, because that's going to get you, you're going to be activated or a couple of days before your actual event. Some people get really, really organised and buy presents when the Boxing Day sales for the next year. I have never been that organised, and I don't think I ever will be. But I do say I'm a little bit more organised this year, and I've got my presents wrapped and ready for this year already. And the one way that I've done it as well, and this is just an offering, just a suggestion, is when the presents come home, I've been wrapping them straight away. So it's not a huge task for me to wrap all the presents all at once. So, and you know, late night shopping I think is going to start shortly as well, with the shops opening up until 10 o'clock at night, sometimes even later as we get closer to Christmas. So take advantage. You could take advantage of going shopping of a night time when perhaps there's less crowds, and it's going to be less stressful for you as well. Now, this next part I want to talk about is some planning activities. So bringing joy into the day of celebration, no matter what date it is. Not necessarily, as I said, not necessarily the 25th of December. And, you know, we're lucky here in Australia that we have, you know, warm weather. And for some of you who have a pool or the opportunity to go on a picnic, some people go out on picnics for Christmas gatherings now. It takes the stress out of having it at your home as well. So if you do have somewhere where you can be near the water, there's lots of activities that you can take with you, like a game of cricket or volleyball or beach, you know, the water volleyball, whatever it is. But just see if you can do something where there's going to be games and to include the adults as well, not just for the kids. This year I'm planning on bringing some old-fashioned races back, which is going to include the family, the adult children as well. They don't know that yet, I don't think. But we're going to have some old-fashioned sack races and some three-legged races and egg and spoon races. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure there's going to be some cheating with my boys because they tend to always like to win. But it'll be lots of opportunity for laughter as well. And I've got little presents for the grandchildren when they win the race and all that sort of thing. They all get a present, really. Last year we did a version of Pass the Parcel after we'd finished dinner. So what we did is I had a large soft ball which we passed around and the music was playing, and when the music stopped, whoever had the ball had to tell a joke, a funny story, or sing a song. Now, most of us have funny stories, funny family stories, and some of us had jokes. So, yeah, and most of the family had fun with this. And what was the funniest part was there was a couple of people in our family that didn't want to play this game. And my son, who was controlling the music, always made sure that it stopped when the person who didn't want to play had the ball. So, I mean, that was just joyful just in itself to sort of watch the reaction of the person who didn't want the ball and had to tell a joke or a funny story to get that. So, you know, that's joyful and it brings in laughter. So see if you can find something that's going to be a little bit crazy, a little bit different as well. And, you know, my kids will do things like, oh, Mum, you know, here she goes again. But like I said, I do like to see myself as like perhaps now a Mrs. Claus rather than a bar humbug, which I used to be for many, many years when my kids grew up and left home. And laughter is so beneficial for us. It literally is good medicine for us. It lowers stress levels, it diminishes pain, it strengthens your immune system, it lifts your mood, it changes your mindset, yeah, and it's free. So see if you can consciously find more ways to bring in more joy and laughter for this upcoming festive season as well. In everyday life would be good. Find the joy in everyday life, not necessarily just for Christmas. How about that for a plan, yeah? Now, the other thing I would like to say to you is to look after yourself leading up to this festive season. We generally have a lot more social functions where we might be invited to Christmas gatherings, Christmas parties, dinner with friends, lunch with friends. So, monitor your energy levels, make sure that you're getting plenty of rest. And really, it's good to keep up your self-care. If anything, I'm going to suggest that you probably ramp up your self-care. Generally, if we're coming into a period where we know that it's going to be stressed, it's good to increase your daily meditation if you do a meditation. If you don't do a meditation, perhaps this could be a time to even start 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day can make such a difference. Or do that little coming to the senses. There's also the stop analogy. So if every time, for instance, if you get into the car, you have the image of a stop sign. So stop, take a breath, observe what's happening, and then proceed. Now that can be a lifesaver at this time. Just stop, yeah? Okay, stop, take a breath, observe what's happening, are you being activated? And then you can proceed with what you're doing as well. So take some time for yourself, make sure you keep your self-care up and increase the meditation. Daily practices of mindfulness would be wonderful. And when we're mindful, we're being present in the moment to no matter what is occurring. Yeah, it might be that you're mindful to the fact that you're feeling triggered. You're being mindful to the fact that you're feeling quite light and joyful. Yeah, you might be mindful to the fact that you're starting to feel stressed, whatever it is. Now, just on that, if you can feel yourself getting triggered, become aware. I always say, know thyself well. Yeah, know yourself well. If you know that you're going to be triggered by certain people that you're going to be around in this festive season, be prepared. And when you can feel the activation in your body, and we generally do, it can be a tightness, it can be a quickening of the breath, it can be a tightness in the belly, the heart racing. We generally feel it in the body. So if you know that the person is very predictable and you probably know that they're going to trigger you by saying something to you which might make you feel wrong, then you feel like you're really little again. It's always good to name it. And this is where you can take a breath. Taking a breath and just dropping in and perhaps sort of saying to yourself, wow, look at that, I'm being triggered again. And here's the bad news. The absolute bad news is that you're likely to get triggered all of the time. The difference is that you can manage the triggers. You can notice them. You can become aware of them, and then you can do something different. You're not going to go into reaction where you spiral up into fight or flight or retreat into your freeze or your numb. Yeah. So again, coming back to that window of tolerance, you're going to be able to notice what's happening, drop in, maybe just say to yourself, take a breath. Wow, look at that, I'm being triggered again. Yeah. So Dan Siegel, who is an expert on neuroplasticity, he says if you name it, you can tame it. Yeah. So just naming it, here you are, I'm having a reaction. Yeah. Or here you are, anxiety. How normal, how human of me to feel anxious with all this that's happening in my home at this stage. Yeah. I remember last year we have, all the grandchildren and wrapping paper everywhere, and the house was just a bomb. And I have to say I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist, I like to call myself now, a recovering perfectionist. And I had to just have that little moment of taking a breath and saying to myself, it's okay. It's just mess. It could be cleaned up later. The kids are having a good time. Yeah. And I literally walked away and took a breath outside and then come back in again. So I really had to take myself in hand because I could feel my anxiety coming up around, this mess. And then I thought, just let it go. It doesn't matter. So don't sweat the small stuff. See if you can let some things go as well. So triggered, name it, be aware of it, name it, give yourself some time and take a breath. Do that little coming to the senses. Get yourself outside, take a breath, center yourself, come back in again. Don't sweat the small stuff. And of course, the person who's very predictable, then you can do, that's just mum doing mum. If I want mum to be any different, I'm going to suffer. There she is. It's just mum doing mum. And it can be dad or it can be, a difficult sibling. You know who they are, huh? You know who they are. So just lastly, I also wanted to just say that your energy will impact upon others on the day or days. Yeah. So if you can be in that good space, in that good place, leading up to Christmas, leading up to that family gathering, it will have a flow-on effect to others. If you're running around like a worn-out dish rag trying to get everything right at the last minute, your stress levels are going to come through and that will emanate through to everybody on the day. So as much as you can, look after yourself. As I said, really ramp up your self-care. Get organised as much as you can. And perhaps do a meditation on the day before the gathering, on the morning before the gathering. I'm really big on visualising. So if you can visualise on the morning of it being a joyful day, a joyful and happy day with everything going smoothly. Yeah. So visualise it, put it out there, be in good form yourself for when everybody arrives. Yeah. So just remember too that, the real joy of the festive season is about connections. It's about family and it's about celebration. So please be aware of that trap of falling into making it all about the presents, the stuff, being overly prepared, like everything has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be. You can bring it back. Your house doesn't have to be perfectly clean on the day. Of course, tidy, but it doesn't have to be like a show home on the day because it's going to end up, you're going to have to do it all again the next day anyway. So make a conscious effort to look after yourself and to bring joy into the festive season, to bring joy in. So I can't see any other comments here, but I think I've mentioned this before, that where I live at the back of the valley, Matcham Valley on the Central Coast, our service, sometimes it's delayed. So if I do see any comments, I will comment on, type in a comment when I'm finished as well, if it hasn't sort of come up now as well. So I hope you found today useful. As I said, we are going to do a bit of a theme on ways to lessen stress leading up to Christmas Day and the Christmas season. And we will cover all aspects of some of the challenges around Christmas. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, this beautiful Wednesday. And I'll look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks, I think. Bye, everybody.